Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets with the man, the myth, the legend, the Tom Brady of business coaches himself. None other than, well, more like the Patrick Mahomes, because you're like, it's hard to say. Who cares? They're both really good. Mr. Karl Bryan, big shoots with no belly button. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. I think my hair is much more Patrick Mahomes-esque than Tom Brady. I think I got the Patrick Mahomes thing going on, man, with my curls. That's my opinion. What do you think?
So, the question then begs to be, how does it hold up in humidity?
Not pretty, man. I'll tell you. When I go to Mexico, it gets pretty frizzy, dude. It gets pretty frizzy. But there you go. Got to get some new conditioner. Maybe no conditioner, actually.
Well, you know what?
Anyways.
This is the people need to know. This is why they're tuning in. Like, if you think that they're here because they want to improve their businesses, they want to improve their hairstyles. Because if it's one thing you know, it's your looks that definitely build your confidence. But anyways, so speaking of Mexico, I'm going to dive right into the first question because that is very timely, my friend. And it's just funny how that always works out like that. Somebody asked the question, what is the secret to a good life in your opinion? And that is, I'm not sure if your wife is listening, but I will be recording this and sending this to her after, so please be careful.
Yeah, exactly. Ask my wife, and she might give a different answer. Not in my favor, but anyway, no. Secret to a good life. Oh, damn. I don't know that I'm the right guy to be answering this, but look, make sure. I will say this. You've got to. I heard somebody. I can't remember who it was. I don't know. Might have been Tony Robbins. Might have been somebody else. But you got to make sure that you optimize for the right thing, right? So, like, here's a mistake that I made, right? Is that, I don't know if it's a mistake, but as I look back, and yet, I mean, I'm well and truly, a couple of decades into this whole quote unquote business coaching thing, or close to, you don't want to optimize. You don't want to become, like, the goal shouldn't be to become a great entrepreneur, a great business coach. I mean, and that's not a bad goal, right? Hear me out here, make a ton of dough. And I can tell you that in my own world, I look back on my journey, and if I were to reverse engineer it and look back and try to learn and then pass on, those mistakes, people coming after me, let's say, I don't know if, again, that's worded the best, but hopefully you get where I'm going with that. It's that, like, I made some good money at a reasonably young age, cool house, cool cars, all that stuff, yada, yada, yada. On the outside, I think that the average person would be looking and going, wow, this guy's got it all figured out. But, if I really look back, it's like, I don't know that I was all that happy, right? Like, so what I'm like, you don't want to optimize to become an entrepreneur. You don't want to optimize to become a hockey player, which again, I did that, right? Optimize to have kids, optimize to have a great relationship. I think you want to optimize to have a great life. Like, become an entrepreneur so that you've got freedom, right? Become a hockey player so that you get the adulation. And I'll assume if you want to be a great hockey player, you're probably a little bit on the insecure side. Status would be important to you, generally speaking. Again, these aren't black and whites. These are, this is a lot of gray, but pretty close, right? If you introduce me to a professional hockey player, I'll show you somebody who's driven by status on average, because you just don't go put that kind of time and effort into hockey without getting a ridiculous amount of dopamine from the crowd, right? So, having kids, kids provide the picture of what you've got for a great life. And then if you go, okay, well, what is that? Like, what is that quote unquote great life? And for you, Road Dogg, and for me and somebody else listening, it's going to be, different, might be similar, but it will be different. And I think that there are 5 areas to really optimize for. One is health, right? pretty obvious, I would imagine, in longevity, right? Like, Tom, my boy Tom Brady, which we always talk about, right? Guy's 43 years old, and let's face it. I mean, he's winning Super Bowls at the age of 43. He could probably touch his toes. He's probably a reasonably healthy guy, pretty flexible, etc. So your health, and then your mental health, which I think is one that people don't talk about and should. My big brother committed suicide when I was 16 years old over a business failing. Mental health is something that I'm ridiculously familiar with, both good and bad. I think that, so how do you improve your mental health? Well, you take on something called meditation. Everybody's heard it. Frankly, you wouldn't be listening to this if you didn't know that meditation would be good for your mental health. But my question is, are you doing it? And the answer is probably no, right? So again, take time to do that. Another thing for your mental health, in the morning, do you take time, what I call TTT, time to think? Do you take 15 minutes in the morning to sit somewhere quiet, pen, piece of paper, and organize your day? And the answer is, as I say that, that's pretty 101 for anybody listening to this, but are you doing it? And the answer is probably no, right? So health, mental health, and then wealth. I think that's, again, it's the reality is people can say that, money doesn't, you can't buy money, happiness with money, yada, yada, yada. If you are wealthy, you've got more options, and options lead to happiness, that lead to freedom, lead to what lead to a good life, right? So wealth, relationships. And I want to do that one step. I want you to write down, like if you're writing this down or you're thinking about this, I want you to think deep relationships. Again, like business coaches are renowned for creating joint ventures. You go to the accountant, you go to the radio station, you go to the magazine, the newspaper, the networking group. How many of those could you classify as deep? Instead of going to 10, maybe think about going to 1, maybe 3, and actually accept that this is a 3-month, 90-day, maybe 6-month process instead of a one meeting process, and go deeper. More to the point, I want you to think of your kids. I want you to think of your spouse. I want you to think of your best friends, right? Like I've had the same best friend since I was 8 years old, right? When I have a challenge, when I'm feeling down, whatever it is, I'm texting Kaiser, right? And then he's texting, like, you know what I mean? We're back and forth. I mean, to say that we're brothers. I mean, we refer to each other as brothers, and it's not trite. It's in fact, his mom, if you guys read my emails, you would have actually read, I did her eulogy, just recently, in fact, 48 hours ago. But anyway, so I did her eulogy. Do you know what I mean? Like, she was my mom. I referred to her as mama. I'm in her will. My daughter is in her will. Like, that's the level of the relationship. So instead of having, tons and tons of friends, maybe you have less and you go significantly deeper. And by the way, maybe you don't. This is not, I'm giving you guys, personally, what's been very good for me when I think of where I was at and where I'm currently, and then also where I'm going and what I've got pictured for my next, year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. I don't have like tons of relationship on that piece of paper. I've got deep relationships, going deeper, going away on a fishing trip and locking yourself in a boat, a tin boat in the middle of the water for hours on end is how you build a really deep relationship. Well, that's what Russ Kaiser, my best friend, and his older brother, who's also like, I call him my brother. We go fishing every year. We literally sit in a boat for 8 hours and fish, and the jokes and the ridiculousness and the silliness and the laughter and the things that we talk about, 4 years later when we started, and we just know exactly, we can just basically go relive that moment. Anyways, deep relationships. Are you doing that? Like, that's why you work so hard as an entrepreneur, so you can have some freedom, so you can have the income, you can have the ability to go and do those things. So relationships, and then happiness, I would also put in there, which I don't think people think is like a subcategory or a specific category. But ultimately, believe me, I don't need to meet you to know that really what you want is happiness. Your definition of happiness and mine might be a little bit different, but that ultimately is what you're looking for. So health, mental health, wealth, relationships / deep relationships, and happiness is what I would encourage you. And again, this isn't my journey, this is yours. So I'd encourage you to think about it. But I also want you to think about this from your client standpoint, right? Again, are they optimizing for the right thing, right? Again, the red Ferrari, I promise you, they'll get there, they'll buy it, and it's going to be one of those things where, is this all there is? It's just not that exciting. So anyway, so that's optimizing for that, a good life. I would say that. You know, the question is, okay, so I lay that out, and I'm guessing anybody who's listening to that could come pretty damn close to almost agreeing verbatim as I've laid it out, right? Well, prior to listening to this, I would like you to think about, what have you done up until this point today, not yesterday, not last week, today, to build a solid, good life in those areas. And you might have another area that I've left off, and you might want to put career in there or whatever. I feel like that's kind of littered throughout the 5 of them. But what have you done today to make sure that you optimize for that? Not to become a great entrepreneur, not to make a ton of dough today, but like, okay, if an activity makes each of those 5 areas better, then this is a 5-star activity for your day. That's my opinion, right? So again, being an entrepreneur is not the end goal. It is, you know, basically having a great life. And what is that great life? And I would go back to, what is it that motivates you? Like, my wife is highly motivated by what I'll call freedom, right? Like, she wants to be able to travel when she wants. She wants to be able to move. Like, you know, freedom is something that she really, you know, this is important to her, right? And then for me, my big brother committed suicide when I was young, and I had, you know, a very tumultuous period of my life. Like, you'd multiply that by 100. So certainty is the word. When I think of my life and where I want to go, like, certainty plays a huge part. She literally, if I take my wedding ring off, like I'm looking at it right now, my wife put in the center of that, your certainty, right? What she meant by that is, I'm never going anywhere. You can rely on me. I am your certainty. And frankly, it means a lot. And good, like, again, that wedding ring does not come off, partially because I guess it's a wedding ring, but also that that certainty, that word, on the inside of that wedding ring means something to me, means a lot. And it means a lot to me, and it might mean nothing to you. So this is where you got to go and, you know, explore all these things. So think about becoming an entrepreneur or making lots of money as part of a vehicle to getting towards what it is that you ultimately want. And that's kind of happiness / you know, the question was a good life, which I think is a good way of wording it, actually. So that's my answer. Road Dog, what do you think, bud? Make sense? Like?
So question for you, aside obviously from having me as your friend, what else brings you happiness, Karl?
What brings me happiness?
Instant
Being here with you, Road Dog. There you go.
Like, obviously, like that everybody knows this. Even your wife knows this. But let's be honest with ourselves. When you think, what do you do for happiness? What's one thing that you do? Because I know you enjoy skiing, you enjoy going out on the sea-doo and stuff like that. Like, what gets you going?
Well, to be honest with you, and this might be a poor answer for many, but like, I love to learn, man. I get rewarded in every one of those areas when I learn, right? Like, a lot of my deepest relationships are people that, you know, they grow by hanging around me, and I take great pride in that. I could also be a bit of a pain in the butt because they're like, oh, Karl, please don't coach me. Stop it. But I got to tell you, learning, like, I love, like, I'll give you an example. I love to ski, right? I also love to play hockey. Well, if I strap my skates on, I will not, like, you know, down the road from where we live, Road Dog, right? There's like an ice rink, like a frozen pond that I can jump on with my skates and go rip around. Well, I won't do that without earbuds in, and those earbuds are not playing Van Halen. Those earbuds are playing, you know, it's Tony Robbins, it's Gary Vaynerchuk, it's that kind of stuff going on through my ears. So what I do is I go skiing, I go skating, which, by the way, is helping me build my fitness, stay in shape. I'm breathing nice and heavy as I'm doing that, and I'm learning, right? So I'm taking the two and I'm combining them together, and I find that to be a heck of a lot of fun. The other thing I do is, I go skiing, and then what do? I bring my daughter, right? And we hang out. I don't listen to my earbuds when my daughter's there, by the way, because she's 7 years old and she wants constant attention, and I'm cool with that. But that's another example of what I do. It's a deep relationship with my daughter, and I'm out, you know, it's good for my mental health. It's good for my health. It's great for my relationship with my daughter. Some of the best ideas I've ever come up with, I've come up with on the ski hill. And it definitely leads towards happiness. So that's it. So I think maybe, Road Dog, if I were just to give a further, so what you're doing is you're combining. A great way to think about building wealth is combining. So like Elon Musk took technology into the car industry. And by combining those two, we know what he's done, right? Like he's the world's, I think as I sit here today, it's like the world's richest guy, or, certainly one of, right? And a bloody genius, if if you classify that as just business and wealth smarts. He's combining two. So I feel like when you're doing activities like skiing and then adding something like learning, that juices me personally, but that might not juice somebody else listening. I think there's tremendous power in that. But genuinely, Road Dog, that's probably a little bit lame for some of our listeners, but I love to learn, man. And I get rewarded in status, in wealth. I get rewarded in so many different ways because of learning. So guess what? It's safe to say that learning is an addiction to me, right? Like again, yesterday I spent probably 45 minutes on the treadmill. I was listening to my earbuds. In fact, my wife yells down, "Can you shut that crap off?" Right? Because it's, whoever, yelling and rah, rah, rah. So that I put my earbuds in and I keep going. I don't turn it off. I put my earbuds on because what I was listening to, I'm very passionate about, and I can't stop listening at that point. So that's the answer, Shoots. What do you think?
I think you're right. It is pretty lame. So I gotta say, it's interesting. Treadmill. Okay. Yeah, standing on it doesn't count, eh? Like you actually got to.
Exactly. Tomorrow I'm actually going to turn it on. Shoots. There you go. Actually, truth. You know what it is? You're going to laugh further at this. It's I don't even know how to say it. Elliptical machine, right? Where my arms are going. God, if you saw me, you'd laugh. I look like an idiot, but whatever. That's what I'm doing. Shoots.
Real quick, book recommendation. I just downloaded this for everybody, and I promise, folks, we'll get to a business question here in a second. The new Matthew McConaughey, Green Lights. Man, that dude can tell a story. It is
really.
He is so easy to listen to, and he is hilarious talking about his life, dude. Download that. It is amazing. So
really,
anyways,
yeah, okay, yeah, no, I will. I love him, man. He's in Wolf of Wall Street. That scene, I don't know why. Like he had such a small part. I'm surprised that he took it, but he's like the highlight of the show, man. Where he's there bumping his chest and singing like a lunatic. Oh my God, I laughed.
He is an incredible actor. So let's put this back on the business front here. Somebody wrote a question, pretty good. What goes in a $100,000 coaching program?
Ew, what? Actually, no, I know who asked this. This is my fellow number 22 who was asking this because I saw it in an email. Maybe she's here. Actually, you know who is here? Okay, so look, let's do this, Shoots. I got to look. Kyla Dillard. You want to speak to somebody fun and interesting? Watch this, folks. So anyways, guys, I'm going to open somebody up. Hang on a sec. Kyla. There she is. Kyla, if you were there, I'm going to open you up. So guys, what I'm about to do, I'm going to open up Kyla. She actually, this is many years ago, but she's been a client for years. She bought a very expensive coaching program. Kyla, are you live?
I'm here.
Hey. So Kyla, this, folks, okay, you know that commercial, the world's most interesting man? Okay, this just might be the world's most interesting woman. I tell you, if you get the opportunity to sit down with a beer, a glass of wine, or coffee would be just fine for her. Oh my God, she'll got some stories, and she will put you on your backside. We did business coaching mastery in Cancun, and safe to say that Kyla was, if she wasn't the highlight, she was definitely in the top 3 for pretty much everybody there. She's very entertaining. But anyway, so with that introduction, Kyla, I opened you up. You probably weren't expecting that, but how's it going?
It's going good. But what's funny about you saying I was in the top 3 for interactions in business mastery was I wasn't on the stage that event.
No, you were at this is it. But you have a way of doing that.
In the bar,
Kyla.
I guess.
That is it. You are, oh my God. I won't even talk about the conversation you had with my wife, but anyways, we will leave that for another day. Oh, Lordy. Anyways, hey, so real quick, I know this is a little impromptu, but can you remember how long you bought program for me, correct? Would it be, well, I can't remember the number.
2008 or 9. I think it was 2008. You'll have to think of how long was Ozzy with us, right? Because that's how you'll know.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Oh, there
And
you
you
go.
had a hockey tournament to go to. So,
Yeah.
so that was, I believe it was 2008. It's been a while.
Yeah. Wow. And it would have been six figures, 100 grand.
I mean, I remember walking to your house with a check in my back pocket for $70,000, and I hadn't met you yet. And I don't think you
Yeah.
knew that check. I had a certified check in my back pocket, but I don't think you knew I had with me.
Yeah. But I'm like, my
And
kind
then
of
we
coaching
paid
class.
more
So,
over time. We paid more over
and here
time.
was, yeah. So here is the kicker. So Kyla comes. So she's very successful veterinarian. Does some pretty cool stuff. Radio, TV. She's a popular gal, and if you got a dog or any animal for that matter, she do some crazy, very impressive Jedi tricks. But so this is the thing, guys. You know how the world works in kind of funny ways. You remember this, Kyla? You know where I'm going,
Oh, yeah.
right? Do you remember what happened when you were there?
I remember exactly. And Carl's
Well,
best dog he ever had was there, and she was an older
yeah.
dog. You want
Oh,
to tell
you're
the story?
15 years old. Keep going.
Yeah. Okay, I'll tell the story quickly. Carl knew she had a big tumor in her pancreas and liver, but he didn't know that she was going to die that day. And I knew she was going to die that day. And I was able to call his vet and get her some medication to stop vomiting and get her some pain control so that she was able to die very, very quietly, very peacefully. But Carl was going to go overnight to a hockey tournament, and I told him not to. I said, you can't go. You got to stay here with this dog. And she died at 3:30 in the morning in his arms. So
Yeah.
that happened while I was at his house. He probably never had a veterinarian come to his house to be a coaching client, to buy a system to sell to other coaches. Right? I wasn't there as a veterinarian. But I'm so glad I was there. I'm so glad I was there because she would have suffered and she would have died alone.
Yeah, lordy folks. But yeah, dead set. So a veterinarian in the house, and this dog, I had her for 15 years, and oh my gosh, did I love that little bugger. I mean, everybody loves their dog, right? But I mean, this dog and because I lived on my own, and this dog was, I got her when I was young. And anyway, so there you go. So that's kind of wild. But anyways, many years later, here we are, Kyla. But folks, but there you go. Can six-figure coaching programs happen? And the answer is absolutely.
Bring up something, Carl, when you talked earlier about the lifestyle thing, and this is very important. Like when I first I bought my vet practice, it was over 2 years before I had a single day off. I didn't have enough money to hire a minimum wage person to go clean litter boxes and walk dogs. So I had to do that 3 times a day, even Christmas, for 2 years straight. Most veterinarians that are solo practitioners work 80 to 100 hours a week. What I was able to do, and by using strategies that things like Carl teaches, I was able to get my work week down to 12 to 20 hours a week. And I did that for years while still making more money than the average vet made. But what the big kicker was for that is there's a huge shortage of veterinarians right now. I would have never been able to sell my practice if I hadn't gotten it down to that lifestyle where the vet themselves only had to be in the building 12 to 20 hours a week. 90% of veterinarians going in school now are female, and they don't want to work the hours. And the woman that bought my practice has a less than 2-year-old. And there is no way she would have bought that practice having a less than 2-year-old baby if she had to work 80 to 100 hours a week.
Yeah. So for everybody listening, so if they were to coach a veterinarian, give me like one silver bullet magic pill that you would pass on to them.
Make sure that they can search their database and they can go in and do actual meaningful searches. Like we could go into my database and we could search every animal over 7 years old, and we can exclude everyone that had blood work within the last 6 months. And then we could send out a thing talking about our early detection screen for illnesses and get a lot of those animals in for blood work. And we could find out things that were going wrong before it was too late to fix them.
Yeah.
And these people would not have thought about it. And also don't sell it as a wellness test, because when you sell blood work as a wellness test and you don't find something, they think you ripped them off. But if you sell it as an early detection screen for diseases and you don't find a disease, they're so happy you didn't find a disease in your early detection screen. It's the same damn blood work.
Okay, Kyla, everybody listening, do you see that? That's a 1% right there, right?
That's a Jedi mind trick right there.
this is, I hope everybody took that away. Like, you just adjust the wording ever so slightly, because remember, what she's really talking about is dramatically increasing A, the unit of sale, and B,
the frequency
the recurring
of visit.
sales that you can then make. Correct? Because sometimes those are pretty expensive surgeries and whatnot, and like, there's some expense on the back end of that blood test. Could be some very expensive, necessary but expensive treatments. Correct?
But here's the thing: you're not doing it to search for the treatments, right? Like, I left millions of dollars on the table as a vet that I could have justified in taking from people, but their animals didn't need it, so I couldn't do it ethically, right? But this is very ethical. If you're doing a blood screen on an older animal every 6 months to look for disease, you can find liver disease or kidney disease early. You can mitigate that many times and get that animal years more life. But I said, if you call it a wellness test and you don't find anything, they think you just ripped them off and took their money. But if you call it an early detection screen and you screen for diseases on an early detection panel and you don't find any diseases, people are super happy they paid for that and they didn't find a disease.
I love it. High five, Kyla. We love, and by the way, Kyla also, the guy, I could tell you stories, but she traveled with, how long did you travel with Tony Robbins for?
Over 10 years. I went to every single event in North America, one in Australia and one in Bali, Indonesia. So, yeah.
So and when they had like suicide type scenarios, Kyla was, when I tell you she's the most interesting woman, I'm telling you, her story is a bloody amazing one.
You're the third person who has said that directly to me. And one of them was a 21-year-old boy in Dallas last week. And he wants me to be his mentor, and he just wants to be attached to me as much as possible, right? But it was a girl I was staying with in Dallas actually told that story of them going through the hallways to find me at 6:30 in the morning because a participant was on the 15th floor, literally standing on the ledge. And instead of everybody going to help them, they're running the hallways looking for me, and I go up and help them.
Yeah, true story, guys. True story. There you go. Anyway, then she's also buds with Frank Kern and all kinds. But anyways, Kyla, we appreciate you, bud. We certainly appreciate you being a client with us. You are a champion. So I'm going to put you back on mute, all right?
Thank you.
Beautiful. All right. That's Kyla. There you go. Road Dog. That was a little impromptu. But so, I know I got a little bit off track here. Road Dog. Question. Oh, so $100,000 coaching program, and what goes into it? That's correct, Road Dog?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. So good question, by the way, because again, and by the way, I'm going to say $100,000 program plus. I've sold $500,000 coaching programs, to be clear. Not here pumping my chest. I want you guys to feel comfortable. Can this happen? Does this happen? The answer is absolutely. But make sure step number one, maybe you could sell a coaching program for $100,000 because you're a seasoned sales guy or gal. That doesn't mean you should, right? So let's start step number one with results, absolutely and positively. So what specific result is it that you could pull out of them? The more you can define that, and the more you can segment it so that you're going to somebody, specifically, like as in what I'm saying, I guess, is niching. And by the way, if you're going to charge $100,000, please don't do it without using my software, because we've got a process. First of all, a Jumpstart 12, but then there's a deeper one, Deep Dive 40, which will go very, very deep into somebody's business and the financial wins that you'll be able to pull out as a result of that. It'll just blow you away. But bottom line, $100,000 coaching program. Okay, different people learn differently, so you got to make sure that you look after that specific client. And it can't just be one-to-one, like, oh, we're going to talk like I hope you're not thinking, well, we're going to talk twice a week instead of just once a week, right? Totally the wrong, direction that I'd be heading you. So what you got to do is, some people learn, like I just mentioned that I'm on the treadmill and I'm listening to audio. Okay, so you should have audio. You should have video, because again, some people want to watch, some people want to listen. Have both. You should have the written word, most definitely, especially for something, think of it not just because some people don't want to read, they prefer audio, but when you've got it in a written form and you can go, module 3, section 2, and like delve down to the specific, go to that section. And I want you to look at page 121, and then there it is. Okay. So on that note, it should be like, I'd say, a modular format. If you ever wonder, why did Jay Abraham, as he really he has not, my opinion, right? And I love Jay Abraham. The guy, frankly, has made me a lot of money and I'm forever indebted to him. That doesn't mean that he's the best trainer in the world. Where he falls down, my opinion, is he's got ADD on steroids and his programs are built, for that. So if you listen to it, you'll see his genius, but you won't see, a breakdown, like a modular format, I guess is what I'm trying to say there, right? And Tony Robbins would also fall into that category a little bit. Most of his stuff, it's not step by step. Even if you go to his workshop and you look at the workbook, my opinion, and only my opinion, and I'm happy for you guys to have your own. I love Tony Robbins, but it is not put together in the modular format of it. It's, in fact, you guys might have heard Road Dogg. I think you read out a testimonial that we got from, Tony Robbins, I think his top sales guy for like a decade. And he basically said that our program versus their, the business coaching mastery, et cetera, program, and what Tony Robbins does for business owners, ours put his in a stranglehold. And I would say that there's bits of Tony Robbins's that are magic. I mean, I listen to the guy all the time, right? Like all the time. I believe he's got the best content going, but he doesn't have it in a modular format. So I think that's important. You're going to build a $100,000 program that you want people to be able to follow, and it's not going to be time for money. You're going to have to take time to organize it. If you remember in the last couple of podcasts, I talked about that. You've got to be able to organize it. And the reason, so people can compartmentalize it, right? You make it so much easier for them. Think of a filing cabinet. That's their brain. Build your coaching program around that filing cabinet, right? And then also live events should be in there. Again, sometimes it's networking with the others. It's seeing the social proof of the other clients. Look at Russell Brunson and ClickFunnels. A huge part of his program is the live event. And what might go unnoticed to the untrained eye is when he gets everybody up there and he's got the, whatever he calls it, the 2 comma club, like you made $1 million with your funnel. And remember, that's gross, not net. In other words, it's very possible to make $1 million funnel and not make any money. In fact, you could make $1 million funnel and lose 80 grand. And don't think that doesn't happen, especially when you factor refunds, et cetera. But a lot of people have also done very successfully, but there's a social proof element to that live event that'll just, blow you away, right? And then the live events, if you were to put together live events for your coaching, the way that I used to do it is we would have 3 live events per year with hot button, like you'd have, how to use the internet, how to use social media and the internet to drive business. You could have 101 sales secrets, and then you could have marketing on steroids, right? So the 3 hot buttons is digital marketing, sales, and then higher level marketing. So you do those live events, and this is part of a broader package, and everything should come with a workbook so that, again, as you compartmentalize the modular formatted material. So just picture goal setting. There's a module, right? Or not so much a module. There's a section, and then there's time management in 80-20. That's another section that you say time management, they know exactly where to go to find anything related to time management. Anyway, so it can be very challenging to put that together, but I got to tell you, if you do, it can be a little bit of a game changer. Something else. Okay, so if you're going to sell a $100,000 program, here's a good, I don't know if it's a framework, but what I would be thinking of, like, I want you to think of what you're going to lose if you sell it to them. Here's what I mean by that, because this is how you can demand, because $100,000 is a lot of money. And if you can't justify it, you're not going to feel good about participating in it, as in getting paid. And then you're not going to be able to close them. So scarcity, like, let's say that I'm going to go to cosmetic surgeons. Okay. And if I take you on, you're going to pay $100,000. I'm going to help you take your cosmetic surgeon practice into another stratosphere, but I won't work with another cosmetic surgeon in your city, in your state, in X amount of zip codes or postal codes or an area that is defined. Well, you see the way I can't operate in that territory, and cosmetic surgeons is my superpower. Well, I'm justifying a significantly higher fee because of what I can't do. Right? Does that make sense? So basically, so that, and they'll be willing, because there's also an element of scarcity there. Because again, at the end of the day, it's not just about putting a $100,000 price tag. It's about getting somebody to put their hand up and write the check for it. Okay. So basically, if I say to you, Road Dog, well, there's 7 cosmetic surgeons operating in this area. It's you, and here are the other 6. I say, look, don't worry. Like, if you don't want to go for this, it's all good. Like, believe me, I've already got the system. I've already got the turnkey. I've already got everything created. I know exactly what we're going to do, when we're going to do it, and what the end picture is going to look like, and what that roadmap is going to look like. If you don't want to do it, look, I'll just go to Dave down the street, and I'm going to find one of those 6 guys that's going to say yes. Well, do you see how that's probably going to help your sales process? And the answer is that it absolutely will, right? So that's what I would, so thinking about what you're going to lose as a result, and there's more things that you could package and bundle in there, but thinking about what you're going to lose, which is going to help you justify that higher price. And also thinking like innovation. If I'm going to charge you $100,000, I mean, there needs to be a shift. There needs to be value on freaking steroids, right? So like, think innovation. Like, there's basically 3 types of innovation. There's like efficiency innovation. Okay. So let's just use my business, like coming up with a better way of delivering training to business coaches would be an example of efficiency training, right? So I'm going to get you from let's call Z, you being trained, ready to take after clients. Well, if I could shorten that process, improve that process, that would be efficiency innovation is what I'd call it, right? And then you've got production innovation, right? So think of production is if I came up with a better way for my clients to deliver coaching, because ultimately a business and frankly an economy is built on one word. That's Ray Dalio's opinion. It's production, right? So if I find a way for my clients to deliver the product, as in business coaches, business consultants, digital marketers, that's what I would call a production innovation. So again, I've got, profit acceleration software. We can find any business owner $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. So if I improve that, that's what I'd call a production innovation on behalf of my clients. And then you've got a transformational innovation, right? So 3 kinds. And then transformational would be like, it's a new way of doing something. Like, so originally when we came up with the idea for the software, like it didn't exist and then we created it. That would be an example of transformational. Like, we really changed the game. We're not moving the needle. We're creating an entire different measurement stick, right? So like, and when I look at your account, so if I'm talking to you, the business coach, the digital marketer, the business consultant, I want you to look at your calendar and then tell me how much time do you have blocked out for innovation? And the answer is you probably don't. And maybe one of the ways that you do that and justify it, which I think it should be structured. But like I said, like when I go skiing, this can be some of the best ideas that I come up with are on that, are on the chair on the way up. Ironically, again, I actually really enjoy, like when we go away skiing with the family, I get up and I am, virgin powder. I'm the first guy on the hill by myself. And I really go for like an hour and a half and then everybody's awake, and I'll go back and have breakfast, etc. I find that when I'm skiing on my own, I can come up with some great ideas. Let's assume you need something more structured than that. There's a good chance you do. And there's definitely a good chance your clients do. Is there time blocked out for you to be thinking about innovation? And not just thinking about innovation. I want to encourage you to think about efficiency, production, and then transformational, and take some time. And then very importantly, getting your clients to do the same and also doing a little bit on behalf of your clients. Could be real money. I'm going to word this differently. Real money is made with imagination. Right? Like again, Steve Jobs created the, what do we call it first? The what am I trying to call not Road Dog. What was the first thing called? With the music. Why can I not think of that? He created the iPad. He created the iPhone, and then before that, he created 1,000 songs in your pocket. Whatever the heck that thing was called.
The iPod.
Do you know what the what?
iPod.
The iPod. There we go. So those things were created in between his ears, and then follow the math and reverse engineer it and see what happened. Probably not a bad idea for him to go away, pen, paper, and writing down some ideas. So anyway, $100,000 coaching program. Again, just because you can sell it doesn't mean that you should, but that's what I'd be thinking. in and around that? Shoots, what do you think?
Well, what do I think? I think it's rather suspicious that you happen to know that there's 7 cosmetic surgeons around us locally. I think that's very interesting.
Why do you think I look so young, Shoots? You got your answer, man.
Question: why is everything always on steroids? Like,
I know.
It's not accelerated. It's not, like these things are doing really well. They're on steroids in Karl Bryan world, and I've known you for a few years, my friend, and I don't know, because I look at you and you know what I don't think? Steroids. I don't think that.
There was a time, Shoots, I looked like I haven't always been short and fat, Shoots. I haven't always been short and fat, but unfortunately that's the way it is now. Let's go.
I didn't realize I used to be tall. Okay. You'd mentioned something about innovation, and then also with you in terms of training. We've got a question here, and the question is, I train salespeople, wondering what you think the best roadmap is for training sales staff in a client's business. And oh boy, this can be a touchy one, it seems. But any offer of advice there?
Yep. Sales training. I encourage you to be thinking 2 things. One, culture over training. I think sales training is important, but if you delve a little bit deeper and look at the culture of the business, that will tell you the amount of success that they're going to have, which can be not the easiest thing in the world to create, by the way, but as a longer term play. Again, remember, when I take on a coaching client, I'm super tactical for the first short period of time, because I want to put runs on the board and buy myself some credibility. And then I get a little bit more strategic. And I'm not tactical at the price of strategy, but I'm tactical so that I'm given a bit of leeway to get towards strategy. Because you get too strategic too quick, they don't put money in the bank. Remember, progress equals happiness, right? Road Dogg ends with that every single time. There's a reason why, right? So progress equals happiness, tactical over strategy initially, but so I wouldn't go to culture on day one, but I would understand that this is ultimately what you got to do. And you got to make sure that I always say the competitive advantage on steroids, right? The number one competitive advantage that you, me, and anybody can have in a business is the ability to see the entire playing field, right? That's a total game changer. So I just say this, look, salespeople and elite staff are found, not created, just reality. So again, and platinum level staff are, the same thing, right? So plan to go and find these people and recruit these people, as opposed to, take somebody and just, level them up. Although that absolutely happens. But if you ask me for a framework, if I was going into a client and they needed me to build a sales team on frickin' steroids, would I take their existing team and train it up? Maybe. But I'll tell you, one of the first things that I'm thinking, because I know the entire playing field, is that I'm going to go recruit some A-level operators, right? And remember, A-grade folks, they love to be measured. I've often told the story of a guy I went to high school with. He went to Harvard and yada, 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 right? Very, got more money than, probably 70 people need at this point in his life. Love in school, he would sit there and argue with the teachers, right? I'm just thinking, I just want to go to lunch. I just want to go to recess. I just want to get the heck out of here. And he's arguing with the teacher, and we got to stay an extra 5 minutes while he's, going, arguing math problems. Anyways, report card day was not a good day for me. It was an amazing day for him, right? Why? He's got OAs, and I'm just hoping that I'm not going to get grounded for a week, right? So I was not the best student. I didn't like to be measured. He did. Salespeople that are going to be A grade, staff members that are going to be A grade, they want to be measured. That's a little, a red flag or a 5-star trait. Most people are like hiring for like 3 things: skills, tasks, and experience. And I got to tell you that a psychological profile on average will be significantly more important. Like an example, if somebody's been really good at sport, right, and they played pro sport or semi-pro sport or whatever, right? They were a superstar football player, really good chance that they'll be a good business person or a salesperson, right? Another thing you've got to do, like if you want to create culture or you want to create good sales or good staff, you've got to define the role for each person, right? When somebody gets let go, here's what you will see. If you do a follow-up and what's your opinion of what happened, they'll always say, I didn't know what was expected of me. I wasn't super clear of the, of the expectations. Like, here's a kicker. Every sport, every competition, every event, every game show, it's got one thing in common: rules, right? Well, what rules do you have in your business? What rules do they have in their business? And if you really, again, reverse engineer it and have a look, you're going to see not a lot, right? So you should have them, by the way, in your relationships, in your personal life, in your business, all over the place. It's like amateur investors, right? They invest with their hearts and their emotion. And just look at, recently we had this GameStop thing. It's hilarious, right? Okay, so GameStop, if you don't know the story, all these amateur traders jumped in, poured all their money on this one stock that everybody, all the heavyweights were shorting, because it's like a mall, a business that sells games in malls, right? We're in the middle of a pandemic. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out that these guys are probably going to be hurt, right? Well, they're shorted like crazy. All these traders jump in and throw all their money in. So what happens to the stock? It goes from X and then it grows. I can't remember what it gets to, but it goes up times 1,000. Well, what do you think if you were thinking this through and you saw the entire playing field for half a second? What do you think's going to happen once it jettisons up 1,000%? It's going to come crashing down, right? Like, I mean, this is you can't get any more elementary than that. Well, guess what these brain surgeons forgot to do? They forgot to take their money out. So now they're all like, oh my gosh, like they were all rich on paper for a few days. And now and of course, some of them took their dough out, but an enormous amount of them didn't. And now they're sitting there holding the baby and after all that, still manage to lose their dough. What am I getting at? Again, amateurs operate heart, emotion, kind of what I'll call a red hot tip, right? Professional investors use rules. Otherwise stated, amateurs think of what could go right, and professionals will think of what could go wrong, right? Bill Belichick, when he's coaching a football team, he's thinking more about what could go wrong than he is what could go right. Or maybe I'll reword that. He's using as a foundation. If anything goes wrong, here's what we're going to do, but hopefully it will go right. And this is what, but all things, remember Warren Buffett, what is it? Rule number 1, don't lose money. Rule number 2, see rule number 1. Again, that's an example of what I'm talking about. That's the way Bill Belichick, basically does. That's the way Bill Belichick coaches football in a nutshell, right? So like if I were to invest in a business, like basically there's 6 things you're looking for, right? Again, think of these as rules. Pretty basic for a professional investor. Somebody's going to be buying businesses, but most people would just go to Biz Buy Sell and see what they think is a good deal and then buy that business, right? This is the equivalent to buying the stock, and emotion normally ends poorly. So you say to me, okay, well, what are the 6 rules, right? Number 1 is existing demand, right? You gotta, and then long-term sustainable demand, by the way, right? Like, is this something that's going to fall off? So like anti-aging in this day and age would be an example there. That's not going anywhere, right? 2 is a good management team. Absolutely critical. Again, do I want the jockey or the horse? I want the jockey, right? I want the horse too, but I need a good jockey, because a bad jockey will take a good horse and mess up the race, right? I also want like a 3, it would be like a moat, like think barrier to entry, right? What's going to stop others from entering, right? Like expertise, a big, something's going to take a lot of money in order to invest, in order to get there. So just barrier to entry, think 3, right? 4 would be pain of disconnect. Think of like CRM, Salesforce. You build it up, you got all your contacts in there. Are you going to cancel your CRM? And you might, right? But I got to tell you, there's a huge pain of disconnect. And there's an enormous amount of effort that's going to take you to go from Salesforce over to Infusionsoft, or from Infusionsoft to Aweber, and on it goes, right? So pain of disconnect. 5 would be like a good idea. Most people would put a good idea at number 1, and a real good idea is one that solves a problem, to be clear. But it's got to be a good idea, and it's got to be a sustainable good idea. And then the last one I'd put on there is minimal risk, right? So spend money on evidence don't spend money on ideas, I guess is the way I'd word it. Like, think about the difference in the framework. Spend money on evidence. That is a little bit of a game changer. To be clear, rules 2 and 6 are by far the most important, right? And they are a good management team, a good jockey in the race, right? And again, I take the jockey over the horse all day long, but I need both to win. And then number 6 is minimal risk. Absolutely critical. How many times you walk Shark Tank and the guy spent $1 million and hasn't got a sale yet? And what do all the sharks do in unison? Shake their head, look down at the ground going, oh gosh. And what they're really thinking is, I hope this ends. I hope this doesn't end poorly. And it normally does. So there you go, Road Dog. That's kind of what I'd say. Training salespeople, the biggest thing, think culture over training. And then, the ability to see the whole playing field. And part of that is to understand the landscape. And good salespeople are found versus created and trained up. But this is not black and white, right? Absolutely, you train people and they will get better. But I got to tell you, a superstar salesperson recruited and brought in can be liquid gold for your clients. So there you go. Shoots. That's what I'd say, bud.
Well, it's funny. You always talk about reading and stuff. I'm going through the book 80/20 right now, and it's just interesting when they break down the numbers of the difference between your number 1 and your number 2 salesperson. It's not a small percentage, right? Like it's by a massive amount. That they are just that much better. So when it's like, well, if they're already not doing well, simply retraining them, probably not going to be the answer, right? So
exactly, it's because it's a psychological issue, right?
Yeah,
the end.
100%.
So just one A+ staff member can be worth 10 staff members, right? Think about, and again, most people aren't thinking like this is the entire playing field, big time. One kick butt. So an acid test, as an example for a salesperson, right? So if you're a business coach and you're looking to take on a salesperson, here's your acid test. Can they get you a client within the first week? So example is somebody with already has a network. So go to the gal that's been working at the chamber for X amount of years, who is the number 1 salesperson, by the way. Get her to, and maybe she wants to stay at the chamber. This can be a job on the side, or you can hire her because she's going to be able to leave. And she signed up, 100 people in the last X amount of time at the chamber. Well, she's got those 100 relationships and she jumps on the phone and sets up appointments for you. She's going to be able to get you a client. So that's an example of, of an acid test. If you ask me, like, what does that person look like? What is that A player? Look, can they get you clients falling off a log immediately? And that would be an example. So there you go, Shoots. That's my answer.
Beauty. Hey, listen, as we close out, can you give us kind of, what's the one thing from today's podcast that you think that they should implement immediately?
One thing. Maybe 2 things. Stretch what they think is possible. So again, 100. Most people listening, like 12. I got $12,000 coaching program would, again, be a lot. 24 grand is a lot. 60 grand is like, would anybody actually pay that? Is what goes through their head. And the answer, you heard it earlier from Kyla. This absolutely happens. So that's one. Stretch your, the realm, your own personal reality in terms of what's possible. And number 2, which I think is really important, maybe this should be number 1, make sure you're not optimizing for the wrong thing. You're working really hard to become a killer business coach and you're going to make lots of money and it's going to be awesome. But let's make sure that you're optimizing to have you're doing it to have a great life, not to create a 60-hour. Because if you don't optimize properly and you don't see the entire playing field, you can end up getting your goal, crushing it, making tons of money, but having to work 60 hours a week to fulfill everything, right? I don't think that's the game plan. I don't think that's, and by the way, that might, maybe you got to do that. Maybe you've got to do that for a period of time. I most certainly, did, because I like to work a little more than the average bear. We'll do that, but I do it through choice because it's part of what I think of as a cool life, right? But optimizing, forget that. Optimize for a good, I think the way it was worded, good life. Optimize for a killer existence as opposed to, becoming an entrepreneur and making, 300 grand this year as a business coach, and help your clients do same, by the way. So that's what I'd say.
Hey, by the way, real quick before I give my my closeout speech here, I love the tweet that's been circulating lately with Elon Musk, where it's like, if you're an entrepreneur and you need to be motivated, you're not an entrepreneur. Like it's
yeah, I saw that.
He's so good. Anyways, hey, listen, everybody.
Agreed.
Tuning into another great episode of Business Coaching Secrets with the man on top of the hill, my boy King Karl. Again, if you're not on the inside, as you heard today, we have our live studio audience of sorts. And if you're not getting access to the pre-show or you're not getting Karl's daily emails, you definitely want to be doing that. Check out focused.com and sign up there. Again, if you enjoyed the podcast, please share it with a fellow coach or someone that you think would make a great coach. This typical sales type or highly motivated individual. And of course, as always, we'd appreciate if you'd rate this episode, as we know that iTunes and Spotify and the like give an insane amount of weight towards reviews. So please leave us a review if you like what you heard. And I can't believe it. That's it for another week. Remember, folks, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.